Doom 4 and Eternal both have a weird emphasis on the various RPG mechanics for player progression, and this part of my critique is dedicated to analyzing those. Furthermore, in this video I will also go over all the enemy designs and mechanics to explain what I think works and what doesn't. I hope you enjoy. The player upgrade mechanics is something I've been quite enjoying at the time of Doom 4's release. But honestly, even before the release of Eternal, I was getting kind of sick of them. Let's start from the bottom. Every weapon has two alternate fire modes, but you have to physically swap them out to use the other one. You get those from drones out in missions. From a drone, you can pick any mod for any weapon you have in your inventory. Each mod has 2 or 3 upgrades unique to this mod, which you can buy for upgrade tokens. Those are gained by completing the various flavors of combat arenas throughout the game. Once you've bought all the upgrades for a mod, you unlock a mastery challenge, again specific to this mod, which gives you another further upgrade once completed. There's a separate tree for unlocking suit upgrades. You collect the respective tokens out in the field or by completing optional challenges for each mission. These are spent on various improvements around the player's abilities. Things like faster dash recharge, immunity to explosive barrels, making your frag or ice bombs more effective, little quirks to make it easier to find secrets. But that's not all. There are also runes, passive bonuses that further affect your player abilities. You can find those at vending machines out in the world and pick one rune you want. There are 9 in total, but you can only have 3 equipped at any given time. Lastly, we also have the Sentinel Crystals, which let you permanently upgrade the capacity of your health, armor, or ammo. Each specific upgrade icon has another icon and a passive bonus, linked to the two. Once you unlock both of these upgrades, you get the associated perk. Now, what's the value in having RPG mechanics in general? To me, the value is in creating your build and character. There is engagement to be had in crafting your own combination of skills and abilities, which is going to be different from everybody else's. It gives your playthrough some personality and makes you want to replay again with a different build. Unfortunately, these upgrades mechanics don't quite hit the mark in Doom Eternal. The weapon mods are okay. Being able to only pick one mod at a time means you must make an engaging choice. Which one do I equip, which one do I upgrade, and when do I have to swap between the two? However, the problem with this system is that in no cases do both mods feel so good that I have to swap between them. Ergo, it is far easier to just pick one mod you like best and stick with it. It greatly simplifies the decision tree in any given situation if you just accept your weapon mods as inherent and play around that. One problem the weapon drone system had in Doom 4 was that once you have all the mods you want, you have no reason to seek out further drones. This same problem has not only persisted, but also spilled out to the runes in Doom Eternal. You can only have 3 at any given time, so why not just pick 3 and end it at that? You might sometimes want to switch out a rune for another, but I do not believe any player regularly swaps between all of the 9 runes. The runes in Doom 4 worked better in their acquisition, in that each rune stone had one trial and rune associated with it. I do not miss the trials, as they felt quite filler and boring. However, you could only equip one rune at the start and unlock more slots as you acquire more of them. You had to grab most of the runes to be able to equip all 3. This meant that, even if you didn't want to use this specific rune, you'd still have a reason to get it. Next up, for the suit upgrades, they just do not fulfill the value of an RPG mechanic. You're not forced to pick between upgrades, you basically just choose the order you unlock them in. Once you've unlocked all the suit upgrades, your Slayer is at the exact same baseline as any other. This means that only your rune and weapon mod selection constitutes any kind of setup or build, which basically robs it of any value. I suppose there is a bit of satisfaction in unlocking something new, but once you've got it, it's extremely easy to forget you even did. Again, this just moves your baseline along at the same pace as any other player. This applies to the Sentinel Crystals as well, though the new perks at least encourage you to pick different upgrades over the course of the game. Also, the entire category of perks which help you locate secrets are entirely useless once you know where those are. Did the creators just expect you to only play the game once? It would probably be statistically correct to assume so, but this essentially punishes new players, since they might spend points on things that are entirely irrelevant to seasoned veterans. Finally, this is the paragraph where I actually go ahead and just slander the RPG mechanics in general. There is a certain elegance in some FPS games, like the old Dooms, or many of the newer throwback shooters, like Dusk, where the only differences between a player at the start of a game and one at the end of the game is the big guns they wield, along with the knowledge and experience they've got under their belt. I'm not saying upgrade trees don't have their place in games, but the appeal of many FPS games to me is that they're easy to understand but hard to master. As Warhol would say, your character doesn't get better, you get better. Also, by the end of Doom 4's lifespan, I was already getting kind of sick of having to navigate the menus to upgrade my character. It's not a big deal, but I already knew what I wanted to get, in what order and at what point. So, while looking through those menus, I wasn't making any meaningful decisions. It was just time wasted. To me, a game that's easy to understand but hard to master necessarily means that your character cannot fundamentally change over the course of the game. The knowledge, expertise, and muscle memory are what separates a good player from a bad one. Dusk doesn't need a tutorial, it tells you the basic controls and off you go. The only other pop-ups I can think of is how you get a text when you pick up a power-up telling you what it does. You don't need to look on YouTube for guides telling you obscure game mechanics to exploit in order to get good. You just get good over the course of the game. There is no hidden arcane knowledge, you just figure out how to best deal with different enemies and how to use your weapons to their fullest. This is a hallmark of an extremely well-designed game. Doom Eternal needs 10 million tutorials. If you put a new player in front of the game and disable the tutorials, how would they know how to get ammo? Chainsawing a demon isn't exactly the most intuitive option. Hell, how would they even know how to fight the Marauder? They might figure out the glowing eyes attack is important, but that will be after they've pumped hundreds of rounds into his shield and lost a dozen extra lives. Could a player figure out on their own that the plasma rifle specifically easily chews through energy shields? Eventually, but it would happen by random happenstance, rather than an intuitive thought process. Upgrade mechanics have their place in games. Dark Souls is one of my favorite series ever, and its main draw is upgrading your character and gear in unique ways. XCOM is one of my favorite series ever, and it relies heavily on unlocking new stuff and your soldiers gaining combat experience. But they are RPGs and strategy games respectively. The original Dooms, the Quakes, the Duke Nukems, the Amid Evils, even Doom 3 are of the simpler mold. A ramp up in difficulty from the enemies is responded to with better guns to an extent, but also with ammo availability, arena design, and the player's experience. It's a remarkable achievement to design a game in such a manner, and it's a far more elegant and refined solution than just pumping up a player's stats and giving them billions of small perks. It requires far more expertise. This is a section in which I don't have much negative to say, though I do feel the roster could have been better. Overall, the visual design of the demons themselves, but also their attacks, are very distinct and easy to recognize. This is good and fair design, and it's commendable how many enemy types there are, yet all of them are quickly recognizable, even if you aren't looking straight at them. However, the sound effects some of the enemies make can blend together a bit. I will now go down the list and discuss each enemy type, starting with the ambient class we have. The buff totem is a stationary object that dramatically increases the speed of all enemies in the arena. In the base game, they will be already pre-placed inside of arenas, so as soon as you notice the enemies are buffed, you will run and find it. This object can only be destroyed with a glory kill animation. This implementation is not amazing. Since you will immediately notice the buff, it turns into a glorified fetch quest every time you start this arena. I'm again not a fan of the reliance on animations. Did this little spire of flesh really need to be glory killed? Why not just destroy it with a punch? You wouldn't have to temporarily take control away from me. In the DLC campaigns, the totem might spawn in scripted moments during arena fights. I like this implementation better. It adds dynamicity to the fight rather than make it predictable, since every time this happens your situation will be slightly different. You will be in different spots, the demons will be in different spots, there will be different obstacles to overcome. In one spot, the buff totem will be locked, making you fight a buffed marauder before you can destroy it. It's fine for a one-off gimmick, but it would have gotten obnoxious and a bit unfair if it was repeated more. The buff totem is supposed to be a weak spot for the map, which takes you on a little detour to locate it. The cue ball, previously known as Possessed Engineer, is exactly what it sounds like. Shooting this demon will launch it in the same direction of your shot, and explode, dealing massive damage. It will insta-kill almost all types of enemies. Cool idea, but I feel they went overboard with the damage. They had to make it powerful for how impractical and difficult it can be to line up a shot. But as a result, it's almost a requirement to use it in some fights, like the cultist-based pit arena. The tentacle might be the most disappointing. Let me take you back to the first teaser trailer for the game. It's got these giant tentacles coming out through portals, tearing a city apart. Extremely cool visual, and the implications are unnerving. They're coming out through portals, meaning they might well be attached to some mega planet consumer creature or something. However, in the game, the tentacle enemies just pop out and strike you. The grace period you have is quite stringent. If you aren't expecting a tentacle to come out, you probably won't have enough time to react. This is especially a problem in the slime sections, where you can't even see the burrows. Before I memorized all these locations, I was getting hit by each tentacle at least once. Also, their existence on places like the ruined Mars base implies that they really are just random small tentacles, and there's nothing sinister about them. The last one to talk about here are the Lost Souls. Those were really annoying in Doom 4. They would spawn in without much fanfare, start screaming, and soon crash and explode on you, dealing huge damage. This was annoying because if you weren't expecting them, you wouldn't have enough time to react, spot it, and shoot it down from the audio cue alone. And even if you've noticed them, if you got hit by the first one, the resulting explosion shakes your screen, which makes it hard to aim for any subsequent Lost Souls. In Doom Eternal, their speed and reaction time has been toned way down. The Ice Bomb also insta-kills any of them in the blast radius. The result is that they're just not threatening at all. I don't think they were well designed to begin with, so a middle ground isn't entirely satisfactory for me. I'd make them act more like in the originals. The fodder category are the weakest of the demons with any AI. The basic zombies are even less of a threat than in Doom 4, and their only purpose is to give you resources, and it's blatant. They have low health, no ranged attack, and next to zero mobility. I kind of preferred their visual design in the previous game, since in Eternal, even the most humanoid variation looks just humanoid. It doesn't look like a zombified human, unlike in Doom 4. Imps also have a more classic design and are even more unchanged. The gargoyles are new, more mobile and aggressive variants on the small beast. They're fine, maybe attack a bit too much, but they're the glass cannon amongst the fodder. The zombie soldier is largely unchanged, though they do have a significantly more human look, inspired by the original sprite. I kind of feel like the projectiles are more vague and less visually defined. I also think their rate of fire is a bit too high. The mecha zombie is the worst balanced in my view. It's got way too much health and is the only fodder you can't kill with a single precision bolt body shot. A sticky bomb won't even kill it. It feels too tanky and almost like it should be somewhere between the fodder and heavy class. This corridor in the cultist base often takes all my ammo to get through with how many mecha zombies there are. The heavy class is the most populous, as they are the meat and potatoes of what you'll be fighting. The Arachnotron will be the first one you face. At this stage you'll only have the combat shotgun, but there will have been 2 mod drones up to this point, meaning you will certainly have the sticky bomb. Why is this important? He's got this turret on his back as a weak spot. His primary method of attack is a rapid fire salvo of energy blasts. It's not a huge problem in open areas, but in tighter quarters you will want to get rid of it immediately. Without this turret, he's a bit of a wimp. It's a problem some heavy enemies face, where without their weak points, they just aren't very threatening. I know that's the point, but I kind of wish weak point-less demons were at least a bit of a threat, given how easy it is to eliminate those. The Cacodemon got a minor buff now and is slightly more aggressive, but it's not really any faster. It's the same bumbling meatball bullet sponge. Shooting a sticky grenade in its mouth will put it into a stagger state, after a short animation. The problem: it's extremely easy. You don't even need to catch the Kako in a moment of open mouth. As long as the bomb connects with a vaguely central part of its face, the load will get swallowed. Coupled with the on-demand flying capabilities of the meat hook, it's absolutely trivial to get rid of Cacodemons in this game. They almost might as well just spawn in staggered. It would be far more interesting and demanding if you had to catch it at a particular moment in animation. It beats me why they designed it like this. My best guess is to show how easy getting rid of some demons can be if using the right tools, but it's kind of a pointless lesson if all latter demons don't have such a glaring weakness. What would be more concerning is if the devs designed it this way because it would be funny. Put a pin in that. The Hell Knight is largely unchanged, but for some reason it feels far weaker. Maybe they reduced his health to compensate for the lack of weak points. Maybe it's smoke and mirrors, but in Doom 4 these enemies felt so much more meaty and spongy. They were a force to be reckoned with when they first appeared back then. The first demon that you really had to fear. In Doom Eternal, they die really quick, and your ability to dash isn't really compensated for with anything from their side. They're far less threatening this way. Next up, the Revenant. I wish this enemy did anything. Their design is so much cooler visually, but when you destroy their rocket launchers, they just can't do absolutely anything if you stay more than 2 meters away from them. They have a homing rocket attack, which I really would like to see even does anything, but merely dashing will break off the lock-on. I don't know if I've ever been hit by a rocket from a Revenant in this game. I can't even recall in my mind what that homing rocket looks like. They're this insignificant. They're really easy to kill too. Just please do anything. Even the hitbox for their weak spots are so big that you almost have to try not to hit them. Mancubi are not that different mechanically, but visually they got an overhaul inspired by the Doom 2 sprites. I think the new design does look a bit more pleasing, but the Doom 4 design looked more unique and special. I'm not sure which one I like better. I just wish the new one had a shred of confidence to be something new. Destroying the arm cannon weak points will rob those attacks of some power and disable their AoE and flamethrower moves. Weaker fireballs can still be fired. I like this approach, it makes the enemy still threatening without the weak points. The Mancubus is the wall of meat that the Hell Knight should feel like. Cool demon. The Whiplash is a new addition, and it's a pretty neat one. It can slither around fairly quickly before popping up into a combat stance. It's quite vicious in its attacks, but entirely defenseless in its mobile state. I can see this demon being kind of annoying when playing on a controller, when you cannot turn by large angles quickly and precisely, but on PC it's fine. I like the visual design too, and the rattlesnake sounds give it a lot of personality. Nothing too special, but there's not one bad thing about it, and is unique enough to justify its place. The Pinky is basically the same. Only difference is it now dies to one blood punch. They were already pretty easy to kill, but at least maneuvering around their back took more effort in Doom 4 than in Eternal, with your new dashes and meat hooks. Why make them even easier? The Pinky is a fine and unique enemy, but it's kind of underutilized in arenas. They appear more often in the small stopgap fights in the spaces between. I think they would be more interesting if there were more enemies to distract you from them. The Carcass is another new enemy with a pretty cool concept. It puts up stationary energy walls in front of your face so that you blow yourself up with your rockets. I like this approach. Hugo Martin was explaining in one interview that the goal wasn't to make it impossible to use this weapon, just to make you more careful. That's a thumbs up for me. It would be annoying and pointless if the rocket launcher would just become effectively unavailable in some fights. However, the way they actually work does not meet this purpose. It feels like half the time they're just aggroed onto you and decide to attack you directly, and even when they do feel like putting up a shield, it just rarely is even an inconvenience. I'd estimate that in all my playtime there were only a few occasions where a shield became an actual problem, usually either because I wasn't able to glory kill some enemy, or I was cut off from some health pickups while near death. I think it would also be interesting if they chose to put up shields to protect themselves as you were homing in on them, rather than just start attacking you directly. Furthermore, their health is at an awkward place, where a super shotgun blast will inconsistently either kill it outright or just stagger. I'd either lower or increase the health slightly to make it more consistent. Prowlers return from the multiplayer mode of Doom 4, and I'm glad for it. It was possibly my favorite demon to play as back then. Their spirit is similar, but the mechanics are entirely different. They're essentially big imps, which can also teleport around. It's never a big problem though, as long as you keep moving. So I think it would be more interesting if they could track you better through teleports, but in return you could also see where they were going to appear. As it stands, they don't have enough health or abilities to be a considerable threat. The Dread Knight is a stronger variant on the Hell Knight, with some ranged and AoE attacks mixed in. They've got more health, but a single lock-on burst will still stagger them. They still outclass Hell Knights in every way, making them redundant, but they also never live long enough to be a big problem. The Cyber Mancubus is back, and even less threatening than before. All one needs to kill them is one Blood Punch and one Super Shotgun Blast. They will do their Ground Slam AoE if you move in without freezing or faltering them, so it's a 3-tap combo essentially. I rarely see them used in close quarters circumstances, where they would actually do their job as walls of meat. Even the regular Mancubi are used in more threatening ways. Still, their armor is a bit more of a problem than a Cacodemon, as you might find yourself without a spare freeze bomb or frag grenade. The Pain Elementals have been reimagined, and I really like their new visual design. However, they have become effectively elaborate Cacodemons. Since the Lost Souls are not proper enemies anymore, those only serve as weird projectiles. The Arbalest mod makes short work of them, and I wish they were a bit more of a problem. As mentioned previously, if 2 Arbalest shots would consume, say, half your plasma reserves, that would make me reconsider and use other tools instead. As it stands, I always have the Arbalest mod before it even starts showing up in the campaign. And finally, a heavy demon only in technicality, the Maker drones are pushovers. They have fairly high health, but a headshot with any anti-weak point attack will dispose of it, while also giving you tons of health and ammo. The triviality of this action means that, throughout the second to last level, you almost don't need to use your chainsaw at all. I'd balance them out by making them appear very rarely, so that they're an occasional special delivery of loot, if you can catch them, Golden Snitch style. And now for the final category. Only the heaviest of heavy remain. The Doom Hunter is technically the first super heavy you meet, and also doubles as your first boss fight. I'll discuss the boss fight itself later, so let's focus on the regular enemy variant for now. Those have got half the health and are kind of pushovers. My go-to takedown is a Freeze Bomb, Blood Punch and Super Shotgun to the sled, wait for the detach animation, and one lock-on burst. Similarly to the Cyber Mancubus, they're supposed to be hardy foes, but the artificial weakness to Blood Punch makes them a pushover. Otherwise, it's a fairly standard aggressive ranged enemy, with some homing projectiles as well. They can be fun to fight occasionally, and I don't really have any big problems with them, other than it's a bit annoying they get iframes when they've reached critical damage, because I have to wait for them to graciously finish the animation before I can shoot them again. Why not make the sled instantly disintegrate or fall off when the damage threshold is reached? The Barons are fast and tanky bruisers. They work fine mechanically and have about the health I would expect and hope for. However, I'm not a big fan of their visual redesign. It's essentially just a color palette swap. When they were first shown, I was excited for a new novelty. However, frankly, over time, I found myself missing the old design. It just feels kind of wrong to not have a Red Baron of Hell. The Tyrants are huge turrets working as lesser versions of the Cyber Demon from Doom 4. Those are also pretty fun to fight against and provide suppressive fire when occupied with other threats. And lastly, the Marauder. The Marauder is anathema to everything a Doom monster should be. The first point where it all went wrong is the tutorial prompt. When you need the tutorial prompt to know how to fight an enemy in Doom, you know someone has made some bad decisions in life. The Marauder has a shield he only brings up the moment you're shooting him. It would have, frankly, done wonders for visual clarity if he always kept the shield on when he's invulnerable. I don't know why they decided to do it like this, but I bet it would have saved many broken controllers. It was actually kind of a problem when I played the game for the first time. He actually has a chance to just not block your attack, for some reason. I don't know what causes this. I distinctly remember that 2 of the first 3 shots I ever fired at him both landed without the shield going up. This gave me the impression that it's actually still worth shooting him, even if the shield does go up. But it's not. He will summon a spectral dog if you do. Or if you don't, the projectile of an enemy is enough to trigger this condition, and rarer still, he might just summon it for no reason. The prompt tells you to keep him at medium range. Okay, what is medium range in this game? If you aren't going to be specific, then you might as well just not say anything and let me figure this out. What the prompt doesn't tell you is that the Marauder will be attacking regardless of your range. He will eventually get bored and do this special glowing eyes attack. If you deal enough damage in this window, he will get stunned for a significant period of time, letting you unload. If he decides to do this attack is actually more a matter of time rather than distance. It's also easier to bait him into it from far away. I don't know why. That's it, that's the fight. I remember before the release of Eternal, the Marauder was being hyped up as the super significant and creative enemy, and at some point the creators did some stream showcase of one of the master levels, and Hugo Martin eventually met him. And he explained how he works, you just gotta shoot him when his eyes glow green. And I remember thinking, really? Is this really the best you could come up with? Is this really the solution to this menacing being that's supposed to be your match? Are you fucking kidding me? Let's start with why this design doesn't work. I don't know if there's a proper name for this rule, but he breaks what I call, in my head, the intelligent human rule. Basically, imagine a human player was controlling this enemy. If the enemy does something which lets you kill them, then they break this rule because it feels like they're letting you win. To sum it up in simple terms, why the fuck would any sane person do this one attack? It's not good, it provides absolutely no advantage. The only purpose of this attack is to let you hurt him. It can hardly even be called an attack, frankly. It's something he does in order to give up the advantage of the shield, just so that you can win. He doesn't even feel very fun to fight, frankly. The other monsters don't get old, but once I got a feel for the Marauder, I've never been excited to fight him after that. There's just not a lot that can happen. If he spawns in during a wave, you will just move around the arena to places where he won't bother you. And when he's the only one remaining, it's this awkward and absolutely goofy looking dance, where both of you will be dashing around, him trying to get closer and you trying to get away. You cannot attack him, of course, so the two of you will sometimes be just dashing around for several seconds without doing anything to eliminate the other. This can take an obnoxious amount of time every now and then, before he decides he's had enough of life and does the green eye attack. You will do your preferred takedown of choice or just quick swap between the SSG and Ballista, and he will eventually die. It's boring, it's static, it's predictable, and it's obnoxious. Another problem is, again, with how artificially different he is from everything else. Back on release, you could actually falter him with remote detonating rockets from behind the shield. It wasn't as big an opening as with the green eyes, but it was something. It gave you some control over the dynamic of the fight. It let you be a bit more proactive, rather than just waiting for him to let you get some damage in. So what did the devs do? Well, you cannot be doing your own dance, creatively using game mechanics the game itself taught you to your advantage. We need you to shoot during the green eyes, so we just patched the Marauder to be immune to this falter. Oh, people have figured out that shooting an ice bomb over his head will make him turn around to trace it, letting you shoot him in the back? Well, patch that out too. You will engage in our glorified QuickTime event, and you will like it. That's what the Marauder really is, a QuickTime event, where game rules don't apply. And you know what's kind of upsetting? The Doom series already had a similar QuickTime event, back with the original Cyber Demon. Now, I know this comparison might seem out of left field, but hear me out. This enemy is the tankiest of the lot. All he can do is walk around or stand still to shoot a volley of 3 rockets. That's it. The other component is the BFG. If you haven't played the originals, it might seem like this weapon is a rocket launcher with extra steps. But that's far from the case. In fact, the splash damage comes from invisible bullets emanating in a cone from the player, shortly after the projectile hits something. This means that you can perform a 2-shot takedown on this enemy, provided you A. bait out his attack, and B. Time your shot such that you can get in close to safely land all the tracers. This works surprisingly similarly to the Marauder, in that you have to bait out an attack and time your own. This is very hard with other distractions, but quite easy without. And how did they achieve this? No bullshit shields, no arbitrary immunities, no awkward staring each other deep in the eyes. Just a big fucking gun and a big fucking shotgun, with extra steps. Rant over, let's get back to some other analyses. So, in conclusion, I actually had a lot of positive things to say about the enemy roster, with some minor nitpicks and suggestions on how it could have been improved. The player upgrade trees, on the other hand, I've got a lot of problems with. Much of it doesn't feel like an improvement over having nothing at all, and more like a weird side grade. Thanks for watching.